Hey now, today I'm going to be playing with some Presuntinis. I cannot wait to get these guys out of the bags and tell you what's going on with them. So here we are. I have pulled these out of the curing chamber. So just to give you a little idea here, so Presuntini is going to be what I think I'm coining the term. It's going to be a Portuguese version of a prosciuttini, which would be a portion of the ham muscle from the pig, which is cured to make prosciutto, rather than using a larger portion of it. However, because I'm making this a more Portuguese style, I cured this with some cure number 2, 2% salt, and then a whack load of paprika, in case you couldn't tell. Now, I let this sit for about a month in the curing chamber, which is probably a little bit more time than was actually required. However, because everything is done by weight, the salt by percentage, and then weight, the cure and everything like that, you can't really over cure with time. It's just if you had put too much actual cure in it, you can over cure it. So this should be very thoroughly prepared for this. I've got everything here that I should need for this process. I've got this paste that I'll talk about when I apply it. That's going to go on following this being rinsed. I've got my scale for a weight. I've got my hog ring pliers and hog rings. I've got a knife, a pair of scissors. I have the collagen sheet that I'm going to use to wrap this after the paste has been applied, and I've got the netting that I'm going to use in order to hang this. In addition, I'll use an S-hook for that. So, step number 1 is we're going to just open one of these and give it a rinse. I'm just going to dump it out and we'll see what it looks like. Oh yeah, look at that. Get this knife out of the way. So, this here, I will just rinse with some cold water. Just in case there's any excess cure or anything hanging out on this meat. We'll give it a rub, we'll freshen it up here for a couple of quick seconds, and I will pad this off and get it ready for the next step. This is what everything looks like after it has been rinsed off, and then I patted it dry with some paper towels. So you can see the meat has definitely taken on some of the color of the paprika, which is super cool. What I'm going to do next is apply some of this paste to it. So this paste here I made with equal parts fresh garlic and paprika, a sweet paprika, and red wine. And I just put it all in my food processor, blitzed the heck out of it for a few minutes to make sure that the garlic was all ground up. I wound up adding, so it was a cup of each for this, and then I wound up adding about 1/8 of a cup extra of the red wine, just because that gave me the consistency that I was looking for here with this paste. Before that, I thought it was just a little bit thick, and I wanted it to spread just a touch easier. So I'm using roughly 1/3, we'll see, of this paste on this muscle here. Now this is different from the traditional way that Presunto is made in Portugal. First of all, they use the entire leg, the ham leg, the back leg of the pig, sometimes with the trotter removed, with the trotter left on the foot. It presents a little bit better when it's hanging. But with this, I just took a portion of the ham muscle to use, as I felt that this might it'll fit a lot easier in my curing chamber. This is the first time I'm using my curing chamber for this. I've made Presunto for about 10 years, but I want to try the old curing chamber method on this now. So here we are. So that is ready. I'm just going to clean up my hands a little bit here and then prep the collagen sheet to receive this. Here we are, ready to wrap this up. So this is just a collagen sheet, which I'm going to put around it. It isn't, I don't know if it's super necessary or not, but I like to use these. It's going to perhaps protect the meat a little bit better while it's in the curing chamber. Again, this is sort of differing from tradition and how it's made. I mean, everything I've done here is a little bit different than the way that my Portuguese father-in-law does his stuff. Normally that full leg would wind up getting packed in a giant salt box and squashed in there for at least a few weeks, just to make sure that it's essentially salt cured. And then the entire leg winds up coming out, getting rinsed off, and having a similar paste applied, but it really only gets on the inner part of the thigh, if you will, because the rest of it has the skin on it, but they still tend to rub the entire thing with this paste. So I'm really excited to see what this does, as the entire Presuntini is going to have this on it. So I'm wondering how that's going to impact flavor. So anyway, this was pretty easy to wrap up. It used half of one of those sheets, which is awesome. I'll get to save the other half for one of the other pieces. So now I'm just going to take my 3/8 hog ring here with the pliers, and always with these, actually here, I guess I'll cut off a little bit of the excess. But then always with these, you want to, let me just flip this over here. You want to try and twist your sheet in the same direction as the sheet was rolled. So since I rolled it this way, I'm twisting like so, and that way I'm not going to accidentally unroll any of it. I'll get this over top here and apply that ring on there so that's nice and sealed up. Come around to the other side here. I've got a little bit of overlap here, which is good because otherwise you risk it kind of pulling away. And I'm really curious to see how this is going to work getting into that netting, because it's going to be a tight fit. I know the netting will fit. I slid it over top of one of these while it was still in the vacuum seal bag. But it'll probably be more fun now that things are a little bit more delicate. So let's apply the second hog ring. Okay, here we are. So again, nice and sealed up. I'm just going to go around, and I'm trying to eliminate some of these air pockets that are sort of in here. Just because any place where you've got air is just a potential place for mold to start growing and messing up your meat. See, this side is looking really good here. All right, this side's not too bad. So, next step here. Oh my. Let's attempt to do this. So, stretching super hard. You can see it's definitely fitting. I'm going to tuck it up like so. Just taking super care to not accidentally tear this collagen sheet. I don't want to have to redo it or waste this one. They're not terribly cheap. Okay, so that wasn't too bad. So this will, again, kind of help everything retain its shape. Because this is elastic, it'll shrink with the meat as it loses its weight. With this, I'm aiming for about a 40% weight loss. So as part of that, I'm going to need to take a weight now and record that. So I'm also just going to get my S-hook that I'll have on there, just so I know what the actual weight is, because this is how I'll be weighing it occasionally. Get my scale out here. And that's going to be 21.56. So I will just write that down quickly. Find my original. Oh, 21.57. Okay, so then I'm also just going to multiply that by 40% to find out what my target weight is. I will write that on here as well. Now, before I do anything else, I'm going to just tie this up. So I'll grab my butcher's twine here. I'm going to cut a couple of quick pieces of it. And I mean, because if I just hang it like this, this thing is probably going to slide out of the netting. So I'm just going to loop this through every few holes, just so that when I tie it tight, everything will pinch together and it will be secure in here. Probably just through one more. There we go. So, just like that, I'm going to not slip off. I'm going to tie it nice and tight, double knot it, and that'll be secure in there now. This is actually going to be the bottom end, so this is where I'm going to apply that tag. You'll see that in the next shot that we take here. So we'll just quickly do the top. And almost lost my string. One more here. Okay, I'm going to tie that up. Just your typical knot. Nothing fancy required on this. There, beautiful. Okay, so I'm going to do my calc on that, and then we will go to the curing chamber. So we're almost ready to hang. I'm just going to take my S-hook and kind of just loop it through several of the holes here, just so that when it's hanging, it's got a lot of strength. Then before I put it in there, I'm just going to give everything a quick spritz down with a vinegar solution. This one's 30% that I mixed up the other day. As I mentioned in other videos, it's probably a touch stronger than I need, but it's certainly not going to hurt anything. Then the last step before it hangs is I'm going to take my tag, which has my target weight on here, that's minus the 40%. And I'll hang this one underneath my other meat. Just like that. Now I've got room in here still for the other two, and I'll make sure that my humidifier isn't going to be blasting on them once these kind of dip below the target RH of, I currently have it set at 75% relative humidity. So there we are. That is Presuntini, well on its way towards becoming some awesome charcuterie. So we'll see how that looks in a few months. Until then, folks, keep red 11.